Imagine the dark earth, literally tearing open, a massive, thunderous hand reaching into the freezing abyss to grab a demon by the throat.
Right, just violently pulling the embodiment of bad luck out of the shadows.
Welcome to Veritas Antiqua. I am your host. Today, we descend into the shadows of ancient Anatolia's healing myths to uncover truths that have been buried for millennia.
It really is a journey into how our ancestors, survive the darkest, coldest moments of human suffering.
Have you ever felt that unexplained freezing exhaustion, a moment where your joy for life just vanishes?
Oh, absolutely. It leaves this cold, heavy emptiness in your chest. You just feel, extinguished.
Exactly. You crawl into the blankets, but the chill isn't coming from the room. It feels like it's coming from inside your own bone.
Right. It's a profound fatigue. The healers of our age might diagnose that as a sickness of the blood or, a deep melancholy of the mind.
But thousands of years ago, on the snowy plains of Anatolia, a shivering Hittite person felt that exact same heavy cold. And they didn't have the vocabulary of modern diagnostics.
No, they didn't. When they felt that internal heat vanish, they believed something much more terrifying had happened.
They believed their internal fire god had gotten deeply offended and just abandoned them. So our mission today is to explore how these ancient people used epic mythology as literal psychological medicine.
What's fascinating here is that they didn't separate the physical symptoms from the psychological experience. To them, the mind and the body were, the exact same battlefield.
I mean, we really need to set the stage with how they viewed fire, right? For thousands of years, fire was humanity's ultimate tool. It kept the wolves away from the cave door. It powered the ancient forges.
But in ancient Anatolia, it wasn't just a utility. It was their ultimate spiritual tool. The texts reveal a deeply dualistic worldview.
Right. Fire represents life, vitality, blood flow.
So when the fire leaves, whether it blows out on a hearth or, fades from a human body, it leaves a vacuum. And vacuums don't stay empty for long.
They are immediately filled by malicious forces. Good and evil, heat and cold. They are locked in this constant, tangible struggle inside our own veins.
Which brings us to the myth of Pahur, the divine embodiment of fire and the son of the sun god.
And the story starts with Pahur getting furiously angry. He shouts to be left alone. He rips off his radiant armor, and he just flees.
Yeah, he buries his heat deep into the earth and runs all the way down to the underworld to hide, down at the roots of the mysterious green tree.
But wait, before we follow him down there, do the ancient records ever explain why the fire god gets so mad in the first place?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The text doesn't give a reason. The cause is entirely unknown. He simply snaps and withdraws.
I mean, honestly, that makes it so much more relatable. How often do we wake up feeling incredibly sick and we have absolutely no idea what triggered it?
Right, you're just suddenly unwell. It perfectly mirrors the arbitrary nature of falling ill. And the ancient writers capture the physical reality of that illness with stunning precision.
Because Pahur doesn't just stand there in the dark, does he?
No, the text gives us a highly specific detail. It says he shrank down and curled up like a snake. Or, and this is the ancient Hittite word they use, a kunkuliati.
A hedgehog.
Hedgehog. He curled up into a tight, prickly little ball at the roots of that underworld tree.
I have to pause here. Of all the fierce, divine animals, a hedgehog, you have a literal god of fire turning into a tiny woodland creature.
Think about the biological reality of a person experiencing a severe fever chill. What is your immediate physical posture?
Oh, wow. You get into the fetal position, you pull your knees tightly to your chest, wrap your arms around your legs, and pull the heavy covers over your head.
Exactly. You withdraw from the world. You curl up like a hedgehog to protect your softest parts because you feel entirely vulnerable.
Because blood literally leaves the extremities to protect the core organs. Your fingers get freezing cold.
The myth is holding up a mirror to the patient. When Pahur withdraws, the myth tells us that dark earth takes over. It takes over the physical world, but it simultaneously takes over the sick person's body.
It validates their physical reality. The story is telling the patient, we see your posture. We know exactly how heavy this feels.
But they don't just leave him hiding there. The mythology introduces a villain. The fire god isn't just resting, he is trapped.
By an antagonist named Gulzan-Zipa, the bad fate demon, the literal embodiment of terrible luck and misfortune.
And Gulzan-Zipa does something horribly familiar. He doesn't just stand guard, he sits heavily on top of the shrunken fire god.
Right on his chest.
Yeah.
Preventing him from moving, from expanding his lungs, from breathing.
If you've ever had a terrible chest sickness or a panic attack, you know that exact sensation. There's a tangible weight. a bad fate demon sitting on your chest.
You feel totally immobilized.
Yeah.
And in that state, an ancient person might just give up, right?
Yeah, they might let the cold take them. So the mythology has to initiate a rescue. It has to introduce momentum.
A cosmic search party. The scene around that green tree is so visually striking. A snake at the roots, a bee in the trunk, and an eagle at the very top.
And it's the eagle that flies out into the bitter, freezing cold. It doesn't even feel the freezing air as it locates the missing god.
It spots the fire god tracked under the demon, but a bird cannot move the demon.
No. That requires a force of immense disruptive power.
Enter the wielder of the thunderous skies, Tishub, the storm god.
And Tishub doesn't politely descend. The tablets describe an explosive climax where he violently tears the dark earth apart.
He rips a literal hole in the ground, reaches his massive hand in, grabs the demon by the collar, and just launches him into the void.
It is an act of divine, violent disruption. And what happens to the fire god when that weight is lifted?
He doesn't just slowly uncurl. He erupts. He reclaims his massive form, steps right on top of the demon of bad fate, and crushes it.
Heat returns. The rivers of blood flow properly again. The darkness is completely shattered.
But how does this grand story actually help a person lying sick in a mud brick house?
Well, this wasn't read silently. It was performed as an enchanting rhythmic song. A specialized priest would sit directly at the bedside of the severely ill person.
So the hearth fire is flickering, casting shadows, and the priest is washing over the patient with this epic narrative.
Exactly. And this is where the focus on role and archetype becomes crucial. When you are terrified you are going to die, your body is in a state of immense stress.
Which suppresses the body's ability to heal itself. You're stuck in a freeze response.
Right. What this bedside ritual does is weaponize storytelling to shift the archetype the patient is inhabiting. The priest isn't just saying, try to stay positive.
Yeah, they aren't offering empty platitudes. They are looking at this shivering patient and saying, you are the fire god.
You have a demon on your chest, but a cosmic storm is gathering. Help is coming, and you are going to erupt.
It reframes the illness entirely, giving the patient the psychological permission to stop playing the role of the helpless victim and start playing the role of the erupting volcano.
Your recovery becomes a cosmic necessity. The universe is actively fighting to restore your inner fire. It marshals the mind to fight alongside the body.
It's hacking the nervous system using narrative. But hold on, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go ahead.
You're painting this picture of a loving cosmic rescue mission. But knowing what we know about ancient deities, they weren't exactly known for their selfless empathy. What's the catch?
That is the perfect question. And the second myth in these translations reveals a very different transactional reality.
Right, the sun god's banquet. He throws this massive feast for all the gods and humanity, but one sick man is missing.
He is hidden away by a sorcerer. And in ancient societies, being excluded from the communal feast was the ultimate symbol of social death. Isolation is the hallmark of illness.
But the sick man accidentally stumbles into the banquet anyway. And the gods don't kick him out, do they?
No. They are outraged on his behalf. They demand to know why he wasn't invited, and they advocate for him. They tell the sun god, let this man eat and recover his strength.
But why do they want him to recover? The tablets are incredibly explicit about this.
They introduce the ancient concept of giving so that you may receive. The gods advocate for his healing so that he can become a true servant again.
Right. Let him heal so he can continue bringing sacrifices. It's essentially like a master artisan making sure his apprentice doesn't die, not out of deep empathy, but because the workshop will literally fail without him.
It is a highly transactional view of the divine. We will heal you so you can work for us. But look at the psychological insight embedded there.
If you are that sick man, what is your primary emotional state? You feel like a massive burden.
Exactly. In an ancient agrarian society, if you aren't working, you feel useless. The guilt of being a burden can strip away your will to live.
So hearing a priest tell you that the gods themselves need you to survive, that completely removes the guilt.
It flips the script. You are not disposable. You have cosmic value. The universe requires your active participation.
Without you, the gods starve. That is a heavy but deeply motivating reason to fight your illness.
It gives you a profound sense of purpose exactly when you feel most purposeless. And people who feel needed by their community have drastically better survival rates.
So, synthesizing all of this, we've explored the freezing withdrawal of the Kunkuliati, which perfectly mirrors the physiological shutdown of the body.
We've witnessed the explosive rescue by the storm god, injecting the archetype of the warrior into a dying patient.
And we've unpacked the strangely comforting reality that feeling used by the gods was actually the ultimate cure for the guilt of being a burden.
These texts show that the Hittites knew a patient who has surrendered mentally cannot be saved physically. The mind had to be enlisted.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for you listening to this deep dive. The healers of our era can look at the unseen mechanisms of our blood and tell us the biological how of our illnesses.
But by abandoning these epic cosmic narratives, have we lost the psychological why that helps the mind fight?
When we try to convince ourselves that we have the power to overcome our darkest moments, are we really that different from the Hittites? We're just trying to crush the demon on our chest without the chanting.
Next time you are sick in bed, pulling the covers over your head, ask yourself, what is the story you are telling yourself about your own healing?
If this journey into the ancient world moved you, share this legend with a fellow traveler. Until we meet again to trace the footprints of the past. Stay wise, stay curious. Goodbye for now.